Hello all, I have another story idea for you. This one is a little bit more complex. I actually have some artwork too that, I'm not exactly the greatest artist, especially since my right hand is devoid of sensation, which is my dominant hand. I'm not ambidextrous. I wish I was. I always said that the real test of like neurogenesis, not through plasticity, is whether you can teach someone who's either dominantly right or left-handed to become ambidextrous past the age of 26. But in any case, so the story kind of inspired by the sleeping plague that I believe it was Oliver Sacks who found the cure for that. It was people just went to sleep and just didn't wake up, and they were in comas basically until they died. Not a lot of people know about this. This is I think it was overshadowed quite a bit by the Spanish influenza. Apparently that is not a good term for it, by the way, Spanish influenza, because they came up with it in an attempt to kind of blame the Spanish for it. In any case, and in this story, there's a plague that starts affecting people, and what it does is it makes them kind of narcoleptic. They start just lapsing into sleep without any, forbearing, nodding off or anything. They just, boom, fall asleep. And then they start sleepwalking. And at first it's kind of tolerated, and it's like, okay, well, we'll let them go around. My husband, he always comes home kind of thing. But then they start, people wake up, at crime scenes covered in blood. They just killed someone, and then it becomes an issue. Because these somnambulists, they become, which, big words, he's so smart. Somnambulism is essentially, what they call sleepwalkers, or it's just used as a general term to describe someone who's like very dreary and tired, lethargic, and kind of going around. In any case, they start doing this so much that families, and this has been shown to be true in a lot of crime cases. They're the ones who discover that their loved ones are, bringing a dead body home or whatever, and they're like, oh, well, we gotta cover this up because, I love my wife or whatever, and she's the mother of my children, and I don't want my family to be destroyed by that. I don't want another life to be destroyed just because one life did. So, you have regular people trying to cover up massive crimes, and it's happening in exponentially growing numbers. Now, on top of that, this causes a trend amongst people where they start becoming hermetic to the point where, they never want to leave the house, and the consequences of sort of cabin fever sort of set in. They go a little kooky, they abandon hygiene, just start developing antisocial personality traits, and to the point of even boarding themselves up inside their homes to keep these unpredictable, potentially homicidal somnambulists out. And so after a long period of not hearing from any of the what they call the hermetics, these people who are hiding themselves away from everything, the government police force, they draft these special warrants to go and essentially kick in the doors by combining welfare checks with a search warrant. And they find that a lot of these people, despite having their windows and doors boarded up, somehow a somnambulist got in and managed to essentially merge with them into like a cocoon, and surrounding this cocoon, which is kind of suspended by these fleshy tendrils from the ceiling or in a corner typically, and sort of fleshy, bloody looking webs. Yeah, I know, I come up with some crazy shit. Not saying it's like, oh, I'm so creative. No, and that's why I'm saying it all. This could be just stupid to some people, and if it is, I totally understand why. I mean, it's sort of absurdist style fiction in a way. You know, stuff that would likely never happen in real life. But in any case, the merging of the hermetic with the somnambulists in these cocoons starts creating these spores. These spores look like gray ashes, kind of, and they infect other people, and they start to make them go crazy. So the remaining humanity starts, you know, like in any mass hysteria type event, you know, they start just running amok, burning shit down, rioting, you know, just mass panic. You know, there's many examples in history of people going absolutely batshit crazy because something bad's happening, and everything they're doing is like doing nothing of the sort to actually help the situation, you know. Now, the cocoons eventually hatch, and these giant creatures come out of them that are like, they look kind of like two people roughly fused together, but with a sort of spiny, fleshy coat or shell over them that opens up, and they'll like grab people, and they'll essentially just like pull their dermis off and, you know, nibble on what's underneath, and they'll keep the hides, and they'll present them to the sky, and puke these spores into the atmosphere. And so it picks up about 50 years later, where these creatures are essentially like they've subjugated what's left of humanity into a state of almost perpetual hiding, and the spores they're puking into the atmosphere, the spores they're puking into the atmosphere has blocked out a ton of the sunlight, so it's almost perpetual darkness, which is like, oh, by the way, these are nocturnal creatures, so, you know, the day would be the only time that you'd be able to go around safely. But they're essentially manufacturing a 24-hour night. And yeah, it essentially ends with like a mother and her child who's obviously been through a lot, you know, running from shelter to shelter, and these creatures are around, and they're doing all these things that, you know, they've learned over the years to not get detected. But then, you know, kind of crash bang happens, and it ends with one of the creatures holding up, you know, a child-sized and then woman-sized hide to the sky, and it's sort of implied that, you know, they were killed and harvested by these creatures, and it pukes all this, you know, mold into the sky, and you see the last of kind of the sunlight. That's the beams that are just going through these black clouds of mold get sort of snuffed out. Again, this is a story that is a part of my genre, my nihilistic genre, to you know, just show that everything for the characters in the story, the world in the story, you know, everyone is just screwed by the end of it. I did a little bit of sketches. They're not, again, you know, not super complex or anything, but it's just so I could put these sort of creatures into perspective, and I could describe them with words. I'm gonna find them first. Here's a somnambulist, so that's a sleepwalker in stage 1. And then I believe I have an issue. I've got an image of the cocoon somewhere. I've also got art from my other stories if you want to see it. Like this is for the story. That's one of the mutant inmates from the story in the last video that I put up on my stories. Oh yeah, here we go. So there's a hermetic sleepwalker cocoon. You see the boarded up window. You see one person sort of being consumed by this thing that the sleepwalker is kind of turned into, and it's becoming something bigger and bigger. And then this is a very rough approximation of what they look like with the creatures once they've hatched with their shell and their cocoon closed. And what happens is they kind of open it up to reveal like sort of like a centipede-like layer of arms that have a sort of crab-like shell to them, and they grab people with them, and then they'll start gnawing on them with these sets of teeth that are all kind of spinning around like a blender. But yeah, anyways, I just thought it was a cool story, so I was going to share that with you. Bye-bye.